Did you hear about the National Association of Realtors $418 million settlement and the proposed changes coming to the real estate industry in July of this year? Today, we're going to break that down in this video and specifically what that means to home sellers. What is going on, party people? In this video today, we're going to break down the $418 million settlement that the National Association of Realtors is set to pay, and more importantly, what are the proposed changes coming to the real estate market in July of this year, assuming those changes go through, and even more importantly, what does that mean to prospective home sellers in 2024 and beyond? Let's jump into it. All right, so I'm going to give you some disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, I'm not a real estate attorney. I'm not an attorney of any kind. I don't play one on TV. This is not legal advice. This is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes, a little bit of education, but don't sue me, please. Second disclaimer, this information is current as of April 15th, 2024. It is somewhat of a fluid situation, so things could very well change by the time you're actually seeing this video. So know that it's good as of today's date. Can't promise for tomorrow. And last but not least, there's a lot to unpack with this settlement, what I can consider to be the two biggest items for home sellers in today's day and age. Point number one, home sellers no longer have to pay a buyer's agent. They no longer have to make an offer of compensation to a buyer's agent. Now, here's the other news flash with that. Here's the deal. Sellers have never had to make an offer of compensation to the buyer's agent. I should say this more accurately. Historically, they've had to make at least an offer of compensation of $1 to a buyer's agent, but they've never been forced past that $1 to pay for a buyer's agent's fees. Second point going forward, sellers will no longer be able to advertise an offer of compensation via the MLS. What they will be able to do is they will be able to offer proposed seller concessions in the multiple listing service. These also can no longer be a percentage of the sales price. These have to be a specific dollar amount. So for example, a seller of a $300,000 house can no longer make a 3% compensation offer. If they wanted to make an equivalent offer via the MLS, they would have to make a $9,000 seller concessions offer via the MLS. Now let's unpack that. So if sellers no longer have to make any offers of compensation, which we've already covered, they never really had to, and we can no longer make offers as a percentage of the sales price, it has to be a specific dollar amount. The question I would imagine in your head and a lot of sellers' heads is, should I make any offer of compensation when I'm selling my home? Let's go into three scenarios or three options when it comes to that. The first option is that you can make no offer of seller concessions. You put zero, I am not paying anybody anything to sell my property other than my listing agent if I choose to hire a listing agent and have them put it in the multiple listing service. Second option is that you can offer seller concessions partially equivalent to what a buyer's agent fee may be or has historically been. Your third option is that you can make seller concessions, or you can offer seller concessions equivalent to what a buyer's agent fee has historically been, or what we predict it might be given the price point of your property. All right, so with those three options in mind, let's break down how this is actually going to play out. So let's pretend you're listing your property, you make no offer of seller concessions, and this is how it goes. So if a buyer is going to buy your property, they have to buy your house without a real estate agent in their corner, because if we're making no offers of seller concessions, they potentially just can't afford an agent, so they're gonna have to navigate that process without an agent in their corner. They have to either buy it directly from the listing agent or just navigate the transaction by themselves unrepresented. The second option is that buyer has to pay for their real estate agent out of their own pocket in cash, in addition to their closing costs, their mortgage costs, their loan costs, and all the expenses involved in buying a home. The third option in that scenario is that either the buyer's agent or the buyer has to try and negotiate the buyer's agent's fee into their purchase agreement when they make an offer on your house. Second scenario, if we are offering concessions equivalent to partially cover what a buyer's agent fee may be. Option number one, the buyer has to potentially buy your house without a real estate agent present in their corner, because if the concessions being offered don't fully cover their agent's fee, once again, they may not be able to make up the difference financially, so they've got to buy your property without an agent in their corner. Second option is the buyer has to pay the difference in their agent's fee directly to their agent in cash, in addition to their loan expenses, mortgage expenses, and all the expenses involved in buying a home. Third option is the agent has to accept a reduction in their fee in order for their client to buy your property. So if you're offering a concession amount less than that buyer's agent's fee, potentially that agent has to take a price cut to be able to sell your property to their client. The last option in that scenario is that either the buyer's agent or the buyer has to try and negotiate the remainder of their buyer agent fee into the purchase agreement for your property. Now, the last and third scenario is if you offer concessions equivalent to what the buyer's agent fee historically has been or what the buyer's agent fee is, that buyer can utilize an agent's help to buy your property and navigate that purchase transaction. The buyer doesn't have to pay any of their agent's fees, and the agent knows that their fees are covered by you as the seller, and both the buyer and the buyer's agent have one less thing to negotiate in their purchase agreement, in their offer to buy your property. Now, I am certainly not here to advocate for buyer agents' fees. I'm not a representative of the National Association of Realtors or any association of realtors for that matter, but when I'm chatting with a prospective seller client or a prospective seller like yourself, there are a couple questions that I like to pose to clients to really help them thinking through and making this decision on their own. So the first question is, will buyers still want a buyer agent's help to navigate this purchase transaction? Will buyers still want a professional's help to navigate one of the most stressful, complex transactions and largely one of the largest financial transactions that they ever have or ever will go through? The second question is, will buyers be able or willing to partially or fully pay their agent's fees if the seller is not offering concessions equivalent to their agent's fees or only offering concessions that are partially equivalent to their agent's fees? The third and final question I'll leave you with is, can not offering any concessions come July when this change comes down the pipe negatively impact the ability of your home to sell and sell at the highest net price to you after all commissions and concessions are paid? And that is the one that I will leave you with. If you have a question, concern, thought, fear, comment, throw it in the comments. I anticipate we're going to get a ton of comments on this one. Look forward to seeing it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next week.